So good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the East Long Meadow School Committee meeting. It is June 18th, 2018, and it is 6 p.m. As a reminder, this meeting is being both audio and video recorded. I ask if anyone else is doing so to please let us know. Okay, seeing none, if we all can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And at this point, I'd like to take a moment of silence for one of our students, Alex Blaze, who passed away. Very wonderful student in our school, terrific family, so if we can just take a moment of silence for him, please. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much. Before we continue, I forgot roll call vote. Are we all here today? I need to do roll call vote. So starting to my left.
Bill Fonseca.
Rich Fitzgerald. Gregory Thompson.
Deirdre Mayu.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Elizabeth Marcy Boucher. Valerie Muir, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business. Kathy Salaya, Recording Secretary.
Excellent. We also need to modify the agenda this evening because we do have a urgent and timely matter.
I move that we modify the agenda to add new business item 7.3, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment posting
Changing the position.
and changing the position. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0. Thank you. All right, we have the approval of some minutes. We have the June 4th, 2018 regular session meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the June 4th, 2018 regular session meeting minutes.
Okay, motion's been made.
I'll second.
All right, I wasn't here for that meeting, so I'll be abstaining from that vote. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, all those opposed, nay. That carries over 4-0 with one abstention. Thank you. All right, we have committee and subcommittee communications. So if you'd like to start us off.
Sure. Later this week, everyone will be receiving the early bird pamphlet on the joint conference, MASS-MASC joint conference in November. I realize that we can't take advantage of it due to the end of the fiscal year, but the savings will be extended into probably around the middle of July, so there will be savings to the district for early registration for the MASS-MASC joint conference in November in IS.
Cool. Just a quick comment, very wonderful ceremony for teacher recognition. Ms. Barry and Ms. Hill both made some very moving speeches. Overall, it was just a wonderful time for everybody.
All right, thank you.
Nothing for me, thank you.
I do not have anything either.
I have nothing.
All right.
Although, I would like to recognize our chair,
Oh.
who's moving on, so I just wanted to point that out today.
Yeah, so it is
Thank
my
you for
last
all that you've
meeting,
done
and it's been my
for
privilege.
us, Madam Chair, Deirdre.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, much appreciated.
Definitely been my pleasure and my honor, so thank you very much. I didn't want to get too much into it because it will make me upset, so we'll just move on.
We'll hold this to the end.
Please. All right, so at this point, this would be an opportunity for visitors to address the committee, so I ask if anyone in here can just come up and speak. Okay, so seeing none, we will move on. We have presentations. We have 5.1.1, this is our superintendent's report, the district-wide SMART goals.
Okay, we have our entire leadership team here this evening, so we'll invite them up, and we'll get the presentation up on the 3 screens.
3 screens, all right.
3 screens.
There I have it.
Kids, wheel right up there.
Smart goals.
Squeeze in.
Go to Cory.
So while we're getting assembled, one slight change in slide. At the end of the data, in your slide, on your slide presentation on your computers, you see sort of a summary, if you will. That slide got moved to the after all the schools have a chance to speak to goal 1. So after each goal,
Gotcha.
the schools will speak to the goal as well as the district, and then
Before goal 2.
correct.
Okay.
You're welcome. Just so we're in out of order in terms of presentation. Okay, everybody set? Fantastic. All right. So moving forward, we want to give you an idea of where we are as we close out this school year, and tomorrow is our last day for students. So, it's been an eventful year. Just quickly, you've seen this before, what are SMART goals? There's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely goals where we always keep all our students in mind as we set those. Mission, we're looking to make sure that we're promoting achievement and accountability, but we're making sure that our students, we're educating them today to handle challenges that they may meet tomorrow. And then our district theory of action is we feel that if we strengthen our core instruction and we create collaboration across the district while also fostering an environment where people feel supported, then we will prepare our students to leave us with strong communication skills, the ability to work collaboratively, think critically, and problem solve. And that brings us to SMART Goal 1, where we're looking to continuously challenge our students and support them to achieve a high standard of academic performance, and making sure that as they're doing that, we're aligning the curriculum that we're utilizing in all our subject areas with either Massachusetts curriculum frameworks and standards or national standards where it's appropriate. Just give you a quick idea of the data. You see our STAR data from spring and fall. Our goal here is always to have 80% or more. We do need to dig in more a little bit on the ELA because we're seeing a bump up, but it's not at the 80%. Interestingly enough, the last few times we've seen math outpace ELA and STAR. So that's something, if you know, for the last 3 years we've had an intense focus on math, and we're seeing the results, but we don't want to see it as a detriment or a balance where we lose ELA. So that's something we'll be looking at as we plan this summer. One of the good things that we are seeing, though, is grades 2 through 8, which take STAR, you're seeing growth percentile. Remember, so anywhere between the 40th and the 60th percentile is where we'd like to see our students in terms of their growth, going from average growth to above average growth. And in every grade level, with the exception of one, and then it's only 1 point below, we're seeing that both for math and ELA.
Mr. Chair, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
To Ms. Santinello, once again, I think I asked this before, why such an amazing achievement from grade 4 to grade 5? Why such a jump there?
So, you did ask that exact question.
Senior moment, what can I say?
Consistency. I'm going to give you the same answer that I think I gave you the first time, is I really feel like when the students begin 3rd grade and go through Maple Shade and Mountain View School, by the time they get to 5th, they're well prepared. I feel like it's a great reflection at the last grade level of 5th grade of the work that we do in grades 3, 4, and 5.
And Dr. Allen, 7th grade to 8th grade.
Yeah.
I hate to, a couple things. 8th grade's our most challenging group, number one. Like, not group, just like every year, 8th grade is the hardest grade. Number 2, that's based off of end of the year STAR tests. So
They're done.
we kind of spoil all the motivation we have on MCAS, and then we see kids.
This test comes after the MCAS?
Yes.
Oh, enough said. Enough said.
Last week,
They're done.
They just finished it up.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay.
That's an easy one.
Thank
Got
you.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is just a quick aggregate look at grades 6 through 10 with our district benchmark assessments. And I just want to preface this with when this data was pulled, it's not a complete picture. So the high school was still testing, and so the data that is used here is from the most recent DBA that was completed. I know probably right away you might have a question around math being under where we would like to see our numbers. We typically aim for 80 and above to be mastering and progressing. Math is, well, first of all, these are not, you're looking at mid-year, not end of the year for this data, as well as this is a progression over time through their content and their coursework, which does progressively increase in rigor and expectations throughout the course, whether you're in the middle school math or in any of the high school math courses. So And the standards are different. So at any given time, you're learning new concepts and skills at that point in time. And so that, I think, leads to where you might see here, along with the rigor of the assessments that the staff are creating 6 through 12.
The reason it kind of jumps out is that this is an internal assessment.
Correct.
But when we look at the scores for the high school and middle school in math, when we have the state assessment, they're much, much higher.
Correct, and it would depend on if we pulled this out and did flesh it out for you to see the standards that were assessed on MCAS versus the standards we assessed internally, you'd probably see more correlation. But this is just an overall number.
But we do want to see, as we see the fall results, how well it correlates between the two.
Right.
Okay. So this is where we had the change. We're going to turn to the schools now for goal 1 and then sum it up after they.
Okay, so Renee and I are gonna speak to goal 1 for all 3 schools that we did last time, and so we're all gonna kind of do this collaboratively. So this is for tech integration. Students will create, collaborate, and/or communicate utilizing technology. So as administrators, our professional practice goal has been focused on innovative practices in teaching. Integrating technology is one aspect of that focus. We've created an innovation team to help support teachers in implementing these practices. Some examples of the exciting work that we have seen developed at Meadowbrook this year are Skype sessions between classrooms within the building and between Meadowbrook and classrooms in other schools, virtual field trips to places such as the Elephant Sanctuary and Yellowstone National Park, the use of apps such as Plickers and Flipgrid to formatively assess students. We would like to share with you one very short, adorable video clip of students creating and communicating utilizing technology. In this video, you will see a kindergartner use an app called ChatterPix. The app allows them to put tiny mouths on any photo or image and record their voices. This particular project began with reading Eric Carle stories and learning about his style of art. Each child chose an animal, researched his or her animal, created artwork, and wrote an informational piece about it. This is the final product.
Oh, there it is. You can make it big.
They have stingers that are very sharp. They have antennae that carry pollen. They have a home called a hive.
What grade level was that?
Kindergarten.
Amazing.
How much guidance do they need when they're doing this?
Believe it or not, they're better at it than the
I believe it, that's what I asked.
Yep. It's amazing.
stuff they do with-
And it's a free app, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak to some of the things that Mountain View is doing. At Mountain View, students are creating, collaborating, and using technology to communicate in every classroom every day. The picture collage that you see here is a 3rd grade class in Mrs. Lennon's room, where they recently completed an escape room in which they reviewed all of the math standards they learned throughout the year. They work collaboratively in small groups in order to complete different math problems within a certain set period of time. And they did this using iPads and QR codes to access the work, and then also to check their progress. Once they completed the pirate ship, you can see in the top left corner, they received a congratulatory scroll that included the amount of time it took them to finish. This was posted out on the school's Twitter account if anyone wants to learn more about it. And then in addition, next year, students are going to be engaging in an online program called ST Math, and that grant was achieved with Mrs. Anier's help. That's going to help bring ST Math into Meadowbrook and Mountain View. Maple Shade's already doing it, so it'll bring it across all 3 of the elementary schools. And in this program, really works on improving the students' critical thinking skills as well as their conceptual understanding of math concepts.
Yeah, bulletin board in the back, you see all the.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is Maple Shade here. So for Maple Shade, a component of grade 3 to 5 science curriculum is mystery science. This curriculum tool stimulates students' curiosity about scientific phenomena through inquiry investigations. As an end of the year project, the 5th grade students challenge themselves to create their own scientific mysteries, just like Mystery Doug does in the program. Using Google Slides, screencasting, voice recording, and editing tools, the students collaborated in pairs through the Google platform to create their very own instructional mysteries.
We need a student to come up here.
Hi, it's Dan. Today we're going to answer the question, where does the wind come from? Now, air is all around us. When air moves, it's called wind. Everybody knows what wind is. It cools us off on a hot summer day. Sometimes wind can be moving so fast, it can knock down trees. But have you ever thought, what moves the air in the first place instead of a giant fan over Earth? What makes wind? Now would be a good time to pause the video and discuss.
Want to discuss?
This out, you can actually put some ice cubes on one side of an empty fish tank, and they'll match on the other. Get some kind of a smoke source and put it over the ice cubes. You'll see the smoke follow the path of the wind. But why does it do this? Well, actually, when the heat from the sun and the equator combine with the coldness of the poles, it makes wind. That's also how tornadoes are formed. In fact, whenever there's an uneven heating on Earth's crust, wind blows from the cold area over to the warm area. But if that's the case, why doesn't wind just blow up and down from the poles and the equator? Well, because the Earth rotates, the gravitational pull actually forces the wind to turn. This is called the Coriolis effect. So, in summary, wind is caused by the heating and cooling of the Earth. Whenever the heating of Earth is uneven, wind blows from the cold area over to the warm one. That's all for this week's question. Thanks for watching and stay curious.
Very good.
I love the presentation skills,
Yeah.
technology,
Oh, yeah.
story, and nice.
Okay, well, come on.
Gives Brookside a chance to get wrapped up.
Yeah, and a mistake there, Mr. Nance.
I know.
There it is.
Yeah.
And now way less exciting. I just think it's because over the past year or so, this is sort of the shift we've made at Birchland, especially Connor and I and the staff, we've been very clear with them, especially the last few months, that this triangle is sort of what we've been focused on now. We're seeing the middle school student as needing all three of these things, which is a focus on social-emotional support, a focus on curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and a focus on innovation and creativity. I would argue that in Connor and I's first couple years, we really put 99% of our effort into curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And now we've really, in the last year or two, tried to branch out and do all three of these things to sort of an equal focus during the school year. So that's been a shift for us, it's been a shift for our teachers, and it's been a great shift for our students because it's led to a lot of different things. So the next slide is just some bullets I'll just go through fast. We had a really exciting and fun year at Birchland. I don't have like a video to prove it, but student mentors we hired, they became a huge part of our culture and did a great job with some of our most at-risk kids. We started doing the advisory program on Thursdays, which focused on the 5 competencies of emotional learning. Connor and I created those lessons, and the teachers gave us great feedback, and the whole school implemented the same lesson every Thursday morning. So we're branching that out to having 3 grade levels, having a curriculum for each grade level that he and I write, and then the teachers implement, and it's gone well, and it's really allowed us to focus on SEL a lot. Our counseling team and us did a book study called Lost at School, which was a great foundation for us to keep thinking differently about challenging or at-risk students. We continued in many ways our peer observations. That's kind of just become part of the culture now, which is cool. We had a focus on argumentative writing and writing ownership across all content areas. We saw more use of STAR and Mastery Connect data than ever at the individual teacher level, so it wasn't just sort of big data moments. It was like teachers intrinsically driven to use data on their own, which was a good progression for us. We saw a lot more experimentation at the individual classroom level, a lot more small groupings, often based on data. Khan Academy started getting some legs in math. and a lot more student choice in learning, which we focused a lot on autonomy because it's such autonomy drives some intrinsic motivation, and that's what kids need in middle school. So it's great to see more student choice in learning. The makerspace fully came to life this year. The usage we had in there this year is what I hoped we would have like 2 years down the road. So we're way ahead of schedule, and it's so fun to see all the teachers engage in that. Problem is, Caitlin Schloyer is the leader of it, and she's retiring. So we're at this great point, but we're losing the impetus or the facilitator. So we'll have to work through that and make sure we get someone good to replace her. Google Classroom.
2 spaces. 2 makerspaces.
2 makerspaces.
And we have 2 makerspaces, yeah. The second makerspace was in year 1, and it was used sporadically, but that's how it should be in year 1. I'm sure that'll get more use as we go forward. Google Classroom continued to grow, tons of online feedback through that. We created, as you know, our new DLCS department with all the classes that I came and presented to you about. We're really excited about that. And this year we had kids go to nationals for VEX Robotics, which started at the elementary level, and next year, and they won an award, like at the World Championships, I'm sure you all know that, and next year we're actually going to have a VEX Robotics team. We have a stipend to pay somebody, and it's going to be like a legit thing, and I'm going to buy more kits over the summer. So just a lot of really cool and exciting stuff, and again, just going back to that triangle, trying to hit, hopefully you can tell from just these bullets we provided, we're trying to hit all 3 points on that triangle, rather than just the one that we feel we focused on our first couple years.
Good.
Very much like the elementary and in middle school, we also are focusing on innovative practices, a lot of social, emotional topics that we're here tonight. But one of our goals is standards-based instruction, and we have had a consistent goal for at least 7 years to provide very engaging, meaningful standards-based instruction. And we look at it in 2 buckets. One is the teaching, and the other part is the assessments. The areas that we've really been honing in on for the past couple years is the innovative practices, and we're going to talk a little bit when we talk about Goal 2 about our innovation team and what they're doing and some of the things at the high school that we're doing to kind of promote those 21st century learning skills. But we also did a lot of work last year on creating a culturally proficient school. And I know that term sometimes gets overused, but essentially what we're trying to do is we feel very strongly with that social emotional piece. Students feel more connected when they have some meaning and it reflects, the curriculum instruction reflects who they are as individuals. So whether it's based on religion, whether it's based on race, whether it's based on your gender, your sexuality, providing opportunities for students to see examples of their own culture and then learning about other cultures is really important to the high school. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're kind of working on that. And then the other piece is the assessment piece. We still focus on the district-based assessments as well as trying to promote the formative assessment process at the high school. So if you go to the next slide, as I said earlier, this year I did a presentation for my staff, and one of the things that we did was we asked our staff to take a look at our existing curriculums. So each department looked at, the math department, English department, and so on. And this is a research-based rubric that helps school kind of guide them to the ultimate goal of being culturally proficient in your curriculum. And if you can see the categories, it asks teachers to take a look at the curriculum and assess the cultural knowledge that's embedded in the curriculum. So to what extent does the curriculum provide opportunities for educators to learn about themselves? The other piece of it is the extent in which curriculum reflects diversity, and so on. So there's all these different elements that our teachers were asked to look at. And then what we did is we asked them to rate their existing curriculum to see where they fall. So if you notice, the left side is informed by barriers to cultural proficiency. We don't want to be there. We wanted to be on the right side, which is informed by guiding principles of cultural proficiency. So the teachers looked through their curriculum and they basically kind of graded themselves and the curriculum, how are we doing? And I was really happy to see that for the most part at East Meadow High School, our curriculum is in that second column, culturally competency standards met. And one of the things we hope to do is to continue this discussion of how we can get better at reflecting a culturally proficient classroom across the board. So it's an ongoing conversation that we always have. And then of course, one of the things that we really tried to focus on this year is create activity days where cultural aspects could be celebrated. So we had a Disability Awareness Month. And so in our Spartan block, students talked about the different
disabilities that students have, from both a mental health issue to learning disabilities and so forth, to kind of destigmatize some of these topics that sometimes kids feel a little strange when, you know, they're in a classroom and they're that student. So we did a lot of that, and then we also did a focus on Black History Month. We had a wonderful presentation that Mr. Polk helped develop, where we had a full, huge display on the Underground Railroad and some certain aspects of Black History Month. And then we also had Women's History Month. So again, in Spartan Block, we had the students look at influential female leaders and what that means to them. And we also, as many of you know, we did Rosie the River Day. So that's a picture of some of our students, and it was really nice. All the kids dressed in jeans. We passed out the Rosie the River headbands as they entered, and teachers got on board, the kids got on board. It was just a fun way to celebrate, I think, female empowerment. So we're going to continue to do these things as it's a big part of getting that ownership from the high school student to be engaged in the learning process.
Okay, so to sort of bring you full circle with goal one, as we look at some of the aggregate data, we are seeing that we are continuing to make progress. We're hoping that that correlates really positively with results we should receive from the state assessments in the fall. Probably most importantly to us, because we've been talking about it the last few years, is that we're continuing to see growth in the 40th to 60th percentile, which is where we want it to be. If we can even move that higher, that would be fantastic. And then you saw many different examples of some of the work we're doing, and we want to continue to do. The leadership team last summer and fall worked with district management group around leading innovative schools. We're going to continue that work later this week, as well as how do you do that and balance some of the things that all the principals and assistant principals and the entire leadership team has been talking about in terms of making sure that you're also supporting students on in their social emotional learning. But all those bullets, project-based learning, personalized learning opportunities, community learning, internships, service projects, and figuring out ways through partnering with associations outside of the schools to give students learning and opportunities beyond the classroom. We need to continue to expand that. Because that's where we're seeing some of our greatest growth and achievement by our students. So district takes us into District Goal 2, which is looking at how we continue to support not only our students, but also our teachers in engaging in their lesson planning and unit planning, producing productive and innovative 21st century learning environments.
So for the elementary schools, we start with Meadowbrook and their 21st century learning experience. So in this video, you will see... Sorry. It's an exciting video. You want to get right to it. Yeah, you'll see a group of kindergarten students engaging in a coding activity during centers. Coding is the process of using commands to complete a task. The goal for these students is to cooperatively plan ahead to program the mouse to get to the cheese. The students are learning to code the sequences, how to distinguish left from right, to problem solve collaboratively, to determine cause and effect, and all important, taking turns.
Before you hit play, one of the things that you've heard the leadership team talk about, and you saw it in some of the earlier slides, is we talked about standards. There's a whole set of standards from K through 12 on digital literacy and computer science. That's what this work is starting to get at. So we're giving our students opportunities throughout all grade levels.
Straight, 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 left, straight, left, straight, right, straight.
Coding in kindergarten.
They program them out.
And they programmed a lot of other things too. They had all different stations going. Doesn't want to collaborate.
Is that done through the mouse itself, or do they do it on the computer and
It's
then
on the mouse.
plug it in on the actual
Yeah,
mouse?
they were telling right, left,
which
code,
Okay.
sequence it.
I see.
Yep,
It helps with the visual cues on the side.
Yeah.
Because then you can see where you're at.
exactly.
On Mountain View, this video is an example of Mountain View students using 21st century learning skills like critical thinking and problem solving, collaboration, and innovation through science. The whole third grade worked together in a flexible learning space, which was the cafeteria, 2 days per week over a period of 4 weeks, where they moved from station to station, completing different modules of a motion and design unit. Students needed to adapt and be flexible while working with classmates on force, energy, and design elements. Next year, teachers will be increasing their usage of the PBL project website, which provides integrated problem-solving scenarios based on real-life situations that engage students across all core subject areas.
Using the code that we recently designed, we experimented with weights to test force and motion. There were 3 jobs: bar holder, timer, and weight watcher. We worked together and had fun.
And then for Maple Shade, the top 2 pictures depict one of the many innovative ways we teach the Digital Literacy and Computer Science Standards, DLCS. Every 5th grade student has learned how to create original digital designs using computer-aided design, which is CAD software, and then print them out in 3D. So the first part is the digital design interface they use called Tinkercad, and then the product is what she's printed on a 3D printer. I brought you some other student samples you guys can pass around, just in case you haven't experienced 3D printing.
Now, you went over to Birchland to do this?
Yep, so what we do is we design in my office from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, 3 days a week, and then we go over to print them out on the 3D printer. So those are some of the students.
This is Mr. Fredette teaching the entire school in small.
So by the time they get we started after winter break, and then by the time they get to the end of the year, every single 5th grader has that experience.
Wow.
CAD design.
Wow.
Do you do this every day of the week?
Monday through Wednesday, we design in Tinkercad, and then Thursday we go to Birchland to print.
Okay.
And then Kaylin helps me manage the printing jobs.
And while they're looking at these, would all 3 schools just mention sort of how you're supporting teachers? Because going to these type of projects, not everybody was immediately feeling so comfortable throughout the year. How have we helped support teachers to get to these type of lessons?
Well, anytime they've asked for supplies, technology, we've been lucky enough. The PTO has been really helpful at Mountain View with that. I also, whenever I can, give them planning time together. You know, I use paras to cover so they can plan bigger things like this, like having the entire 3rd grade cafeteria at one time.
Right. You also have a long-established practice of using your faculty meetings to share best practices.
Yes.
So I'm sure that's inspired.
Yes.
Someone who's been a pioneer then gets to share with the entire
Right.
faculty how to do something like this.
One thing that was great about the groups was I put an open invitation out to teachers to come in and learn. So several teachers throughout this project would come in and sit down with their laptop as if they were a student, and they actually printed designs as well. So they were thinking about ways to incorporate going forward. It was very helpful.
And Gordon, we've established that at the beginning, the first 5 or 10 minutes of our staff PD on a monthly basis, that we have teachers that sign up for an innovation share so that they can share things like the coding in the classroom or the Skyping, you know, with the sanctuary, so.
And then we
And then
also
know where the
created-
resource is to support them if they
Correct.
try it. Yeah.
We
Great.
created the innovation team this year, and they're a group of teachers in the building that also share out these practices via contributions to the newsletter. We took the innovation team to a conference on teaching and learning with iPads, and they then bring that back and share that out with staff as well.
So when you have the students in their small groups collaborating on any of these classroom projects or, I guess projects, do you find that the kids work well, that not one person dominates, that you really try to mix up groups so that other kids get a chance to kind of be like a leader, or?
The teachers are really good at mixing it up. We don't always let them choose who they're working with.
Yeah.
They mix it up.
I have the bottom the bottom two photos as well, sorry about that.
Okay.
So the bottom two images are a second innovative example of how we meet both the DLCS and science, technology, and engineering standards together. Every student in every grade utilizes a coding software to design solutions for an open-ended robotics challenge. Here, these third grade students programmed, coded, and designed robotic prototypes for functional amusement park rides.
It is.
I have to reserve a spot in Mr. Fredette's class.
3D printing. 3D printing.
The Tinkercad is real sort of young student friendly. It's
So you'd fit in.
So you-
Start you off on that.
Say something.
I am in the embryonic stages of it, so.
Then you can graduate to Gravit.io for laser cutting, which is a little more comprehensive.
There you go.
You have to work your way up.
Yeah,
That really is really neat stuff.
it is.
Thanks.
So for this goal, we just provided some pictures. We've come a long way with this type of stuff for sure, but we have a long way to go in terms of usage of our laser cutter usage. We're up to 3 3D printers in the school. And what's, Mr. Fredette, what's that other machine we have now? That
Your
cuts the
Cricut
fabric? Cricut.
It's a vinyl cutter.
Yeah.
So, we have Kaylin who's led it along with Mr. Fredette at my building, but we've when it comes to those big machines, we have certain teachers that have dove in, but we need to increase that, which is fine. It's year one. So we saw some 3D printing. We saw, we had one incredible math project in 7th grade using the laser cutters, which was like exactly how we pictured it working. 7th grade English did a great project with the crickets, with the Cricut. But we have a lot of developing still left to do. Pictures provided here, the top 2 were of last week's final Makerspace Challenge. These are always a highlight at the school. Last week we went up to 23 or 24 teams, and for the first time ever, we allowed staff to be teams, which was really fun and kind of, up the ante. And that was probably, Mr. Mackey's there, but that was probably the best one I thought we had ever had.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was really good. So that's just always fun and always goes right to the heart of the design process and adds the constraint of time and chaos, which is another good constraint, which is cool.
So the teachers competed against students?
Yeah, we had 2 full there was no pollination, it was
And the
like
kids
full
won.
staff.
A kid team won. And a kid team won?
The staff won. The staff won, which I predicted no chance. I was a little soft in how I announced it because I had talked about it. So I kind of made it seem.
Kind of hoped they'd win.
But in the kids' defense, our engineering teacher was on the team. She was a ringer.
It's not very fair then.
Yeah. The picture on the bottom left is just what Lisa, I think you mentioned it, Plickers, is that what it's called? That's an 8th grade algebra class that uses Plickers to get immediate data on how kids do on every single question they're answering at their desk. It's pretty amazing if you've never seen it. They just hold up this cue card and then she just takes her cell phone and scans the room. And it catches every card and immediately tells you how many kids got it right, how many got it wrong. And the cards are tied to individual kids. So you just go like this with your phone and you know how many people got it, who got what right, who got what wrong.
It's free.
It's free.
That's even better.
That's even better. When she started doing it when I was in the room, I had no idea what was going on. I was like, what just happened here? And then she showed me. So a lot of cool stuff like that, and a lot of it's free.
Really engaging the kids that way too.
Yeah, a lot of it's free. And also because it's symbols, like they all just can't hold up A. If they all hold up A, like they quickly, A, This really gives you a clear picture. And then the bottom right is STEAM class. That's some VEX robotics going on in STEAM class where they built and programmed robots to pick up those boxes and put them in the bigger boxes. So just kind of, even that day, like I'm just walking down the hall and there they are in the hallway playing with their robots, and it always shocks me that these kind of things are going on, which is great.
Starts programming that mouse.
Yeah.
That's right. Seriously.
All right, so I'm so proud of the progress the high school has made in terms of developing 21st century learning skills with our students. As you know, we put a lot of time and effort and money and resources into developing things like our robotics program, utilizing Google Classroom, the math book, and so forth. This year, we revamped our tech apps class to make it much more engaging. We purchased a great deal of materials to provide kids that hands-on, up-to-date, most relevant tools to kind of promote the critical thinking piece. And I'm very super proud, and I thank Valerie very much for this, and also Michael with their help in helping the high school get the Project Lead the Way grant, which I think is going to be one of the most exciting things going out at the high school next year. We've been very fortunate to get computers for this program. Right now this summer we're going to be renovating Mr. Van Buren's room to allow the structure that's needed for that, the physical space for that. So a lot of time and energy is going into really honing in on the STEM related classes, as well as those 21st century learning skills. Matter of fact, one of the things I was pretty proud of this year is we got a call from Belchertown School District. They had heard some of the great things that we're doing, and they wanted to come over and kind of see, what exactly is going on at the high school. So it's nice to hear that we're getting some kind of, feedback from the community, as we're a place where this stuff is at the forefront. And of course, the thing I'm so excited for, I can barely sit down, is, we finally posted for our instructional technology specialist, and I think that is going to be a true game changer in terms of helping teachers, give them that support to kind of push that envelope even more. One of the things we did this year that kind of is continuous with all the other schools is we also have an innovation team made up of teachers. And one of the things that we did is we read, George Kouros is a kind of a guru in the instructional technology business. And so we collectively read his book. And I'm so excited he's actually coming to the district next year. Is that right? I don't know.
Don't take my thunder.
All right. So he's like an instructional technology rock star. So I'm really excited that he's coming. Anyway, so this excerpt that you see on the left is an excerpt from his book. And these are the things at the high school we're really trying to press upon our teachers where we need to go in the direction of innovative classrooms. So things like students having a voice in their classroom, and I'll share some examples of that in just a little bit. Students having choice. Students should be able to spend as much time as they can reflecting on their learning. Opportunities for innovation, so building things, hands-on type stuff. Asking questions, the critical thinking piece is so vital. Giving students an opportunity to be problem solvers and be able to fail and learn from that process. Self-assessment, students reflecting on their own work and grading themselves and each other. And connective learning, making sure that we are doing everything in our power to bring the experts to us, whether that's through social media, whether that's through things like Skype. All of those things collectively opens up the classroom for our students. And so this year, Frank and I both presented to our staff, and I think Gordon was there and Val was there as well. We did a PD on innovation, and what we did was we created different scenarios instructionally. So it could be a social studies scenario, and we got them into teams, and we asked them to, okay, here's a scenario, now create a lesson that capitalizes on the different innovation techniques that we're trying to promote at the high school. And I'll let Frank talk about the feedback and what came out of that.
So as Dr. Flanagan noted, what we set out to do this year was to really take a deeper look at innovation through our innovation team and give our staff a concrete direction in terms of better understanding what innovation meant in the classroom. So we took these 8 topics and we highlighted them in a professional development back in April, just to, one, like I said, give the staff a little bit of direction, but also 2, kind of get their temperature in terms of comfort level and understanding of what it meant to be innovative in the classroom. So from that PD, after introducing it to the staff, we took a survey. We got some feedback in terms of how well they understood what it meant to be innovative in the classroom. We did get some great feedback. What you see up there is a survey in terms of how useful they found the PD. So you can see that about 87% of our staff saw it as a really useful endeavor. But the other piece of our PD, again, was to gather feedback in terms of their comfort level. And one of the things we surveyed them on was areas where within the 8 practices of an innovative classroom, they might want more professional development. So we use that feedback based on, walking them through it and explaining it to them, what they want to see in future PDs. So we're using that to set up some professional development for next year. After we went through the 8 innovative practices with them in April, we also went on a building-wide week of learning walks, where we looked at some of the innovative practices taking place in some of our classrooms. And we saw some great examples of innovation. We saw lots of student voice, student choice, high levels of critical thinking, similar to some of the stuff that some of the lower, the elementary and middle school levels highlighted as well. There's lots of embedding of technology and If you look at things like the robotics program in our high school, we embedded, we look at our tech lab where the students are both building and coding robots. We also saw, if you looked in our fine arts or our ELA department, there were examples of students writing their own and developing their own plays. And again, like I said, there was lots of opportunities for critical thinking. But some of the areas where we saw areas where teachers wanted more feedback and stuff we can for next year, we're going to build some professional development around things like self-assessment, connected learning, and just opportunities for innovation in the classroom. So this was not just a one-year thing. We're looking at innovation in the classroom this year, but it's also where we can help develop our professional development for next year and help our staff going forward.
And so just to highlight, for us, we think that this year at the high school, it was the year of collaboration and innovation, truly. We saw a lot more teachers taking some risks in terms of developing technology-based instruction. One of the things we also saw was a lot of collaboration. So we saw a lot of different departments working together. Earlier this year, the math and the PE department working on the curling project where they had to actually create one in the courtyard. We saw the ESL classes collaborating with English classes. So there was a lot of that going on. And we saw an increase in the use of Google Classroom throughout the high school. And then one thing I wanted, there's a video attached to this. I thought this was, and we'll just play it for a few seconds, but our art department and our English department did a great job this year in utilizing, I think it was Walt Whitman. Was it Walt Whitman, or I can't remember the author, but they basically, the lost generation. And so what they did was the students collaborated with their art classes, and they had to visually kind of interpret this piece of literature through samples of artwork within the high school. So if you click on that, I think you might see
the art generation?
Yeah, if you click on that, I attached a link to it. I don't know. There we go. Photography class mixed with an English class, and the idea was to take the literature and interpret it through the art form. So we're really excited. These are just things that we hope to continue to build upon.
Yeah, it's just not, it keeps bouncing out of full screen. So this is kind of a wrap-up of our goal 2, what next steps are. You just saw a lot of great innovative things happening across all of our grades. So at the district level, how we're supporting that, a couple of things that kind of meld well together. Our district-wide professional development this year received overwhelmingly positive feedback to continue the model. So we have already started planning, and next year's keynotes are a couple that I think are going to really hit home with what we're trying to strive for with how we plan for instruction and meeting our students' needs. One is going to be presenting in our first full day in November around growth mindset and productive struggle, with a real emphasis on that productive struggle piece. And this is a recommendation that came from one of the Mountain View staff who I had to tell her when I saw her face to face, and I felt like I had just given her the lottery. She was so excited that...
She's so excited.
Yeah, so excited that Trevor Reagan is going to come. He is someone who does some presentation around around growth mindset, being able to struggle and how challenge is where you grow. So he's going to start our full-day PD, and then he's actually going to do a couple of modules throughout the day as well. He'll do some breakout sessions for staff as well. And then in March, we have George Kuros, who is the author of The Innovator's Mindset, who you just saw the PD that was done at the high school, and we have a couple of schools whose innovation teams are actually using this book to guide their work. So he will come and do a keynote as well as breakout sessions for us in March. And then the other part of those PD days, which is what makes them really successful, is not just someone who comes and talks to us, is the fact that it's an opportunity for our staff to grow and develop leadership skills and sharing best practices with their colleagues. So we will continue that as well, where we will put out and get staff presenters around the theme, which you can see up there. Our theme for next year is Fostering Innovative Thinkers for a Changing World, which is also our tagline for our one-to-one initiative. And so that's the next thing that we've worked a lot on, which I'll get into in a minute. Also, East Long Meadow this year, under Superintendent Smith's direction, hosted and provided professional development with area superintendents around sharing best practices and how to be innovative and help reduce achievement gaps. So next steps for the one-to-one is our next steps period is to recruit staff presenters. We're also implementing and providing professional development across all content areas, but particularly with a little bit of an emphasis on the DLCS that you've heard a lot about throughout this presentation. And then just to give you a heads up on where we are with our one-to-one initiative, we presented both to school committee and town manager. We have to continue to revise and plan for our one-to-one and what those action steps are going to look like under current circumstances, but still striving to reach that goal. So the committee is going to be working on that. A long-term professional development plan will be created as well. That's another next step that we have for one-to-one. And then a real large piece that we see that the committee sees is developing a communication plan with the community and getting started on that pretty quickly. So those are some pretty heavy lifting pieces for one-to-one, but I think we got the right team together, and we'll have some updates for you later in the year as we move closer to that.
Okay, and that moves us into goal 3, where we're always looking to make sure in our buildings that we're keeping and creating a safe, nurturing, and respectful learning and working environment so that it allows all our students and staff members to perform at their absolute best and top level.
So I will be speaking to goal 3, and we all focused on the social-emotional learning piece that's been going on in our schools this year. So I'll be starting with Meadowbrook. And the first picture is Officer Deanne from the East Long Meadow Police Department reading aloud to a kindergarten classroom. He read to all 9 kindergarten classrooms. Chief DeLessio partnered with Meadowbrook School in making this happen. And they continue to forge healthy partnerships in the community in order to increase support for our students. And just as a side note, the police department has been awesome about coming to the schools every morning. The kids love it. I mean, they come when they can, but it's usually more than once a week that they're at the doors when the buses come in the car line, and it's been great. The kids really like it. The staff likes it, so it's great.
Can't say enough about our police department. They've been fantastic partners, and Chief DeLessio really is committed to increasing how they integrate into many different activities at our schools.
In the second picture in the middle, you see second grade students developing leadership skills as they lead the morning announcements. Students introduce themselves, recite the pledge, say the school mantra, and it all ends with a positive quote that's usually connected with a character trait of the month. All second grade students are given the opportunity to participate throughout the year. And in the third picture, Meadowbrook School held assemblies throughout the year focusing on important character traits such as kindness, perseverance, citizenship, and respect. For the kindness assembly, students were asked to create messages and illustrations representing kindness, and these messages were added to classroom kites, which were displayed in the cafeteria for all to see. In addition, Meadowbrook utilized their social emotional money in a variety of ways to support students. One of those ways was they purchased a book for staff titled Helping Traumatized Children Learn and brought in Carolyn Romano to provide professional development to the entire faculty on how trauma impacts learning. They also were able to purchase the incredible Flexible U, a social thinking curriculum for preschool, and hire a retired special education teacher to implement this in the classroom. They were also able to hire a behavior intervention specialist to implement targeted interventions with a number of Tier 3 students. This is the Mountain View slide, and I know earlier in the year I mentioned the Look for the Good project. So during the 2-week Look for the Good campaign, Mountain View students, led by the Look for the Good ambassadors, which are on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, participated in daily gratitude reflections read during the morning announcements, which they then responded to on sticky notes and hung on our gratitude wall, which is the bottom left. So all of the students and staff in the school responded every day on a sticky note, which we then hung up on that wall, and I'm sure Mr. Potter and Mr. Maurer will be very happy to see that go, because they were falling off throughout the year. We had to keep taping them up. Gratitude spots were placed throughout the building and on the playground, and the students were encouraged to stop on the spots and think about people or things they are grateful for. So there's Zoe on the spot, and she said she's grateful for her teachers, her friends, and her learning. The students and staff purchased You Matter t-shirts. So the top center, it's kind of cut off in the middle there, but I would say 80% of the staff and students bought a shirt, and we all wore them several times actually throughout the year. We were also given You Matter cards, which were almost like a little baseball card that just said You Matter and had a couple of sayings on them. And everyone was given a few, and throughout the 2 weeks, you handed them out to people just whenever you wanted to. And the kids absolutely loved it. Even the kids who I wouldn't think would be inspired to do that were. That was definitely the most popular activity. So then the project that's run by a woman in Connecticut is they also conduct their own survey of the students online. So our students took the survey, and it only had 3 questions. 91% of the students felt that they were nicer to each other during the 2-week project than they were at other times during the year. 84% saw less mean-spirited behavior during the 2-week campaign, and 98% said they would recommend it to other schools. So the PTO is paying for us to have it again next year. We also are, the PBL project that we mentioned earlier that Mountain View uses quite frequently is also adding a new facet to the program for community service project-based learning activities. So the Mountain View Pioneers will be using that next year to do some more community service activities. Norma, Sue Thomas, Deb Barry's retiring, but I'm sure someone else will join them in doing that. And the last slide is Maple Shade. So there were 3 main components to their social emotional improvements this year. And the first one was connections to the outdoors. The second one was mindfulness. The third was the Look for the Good, which I just talked about at Mountain View. And they did a morning walk program every day at 7:40 before school starts. They were up to 35 students that walk with 3 staff members every day. They had a bike to school program that was a huge success that involved parents, police officers, staff members, and 73 students that rode their bikes to school. Mindfulness and self-care takes place throughout the day at Maple Shade for a calm environment that connects us with the present moment. And the Look for the Good project student survey data is evidence of a nicer and less mean-spirited environment in our school. And the percentages would, Maple Shade students, 87% said they would recommend this program to other schools. So it was very similar data at both schools.
And at Birchland, I'm going to share some bullets from a survey that our staff, all Unit A members, took at the end of the year. And this gives a snapshot of the climate at Birchland, the emotional climate. The physical and meteorological climate today was hot. But this kind of shows you just where our staff is. So 94% of staff agreed that the social emotional advisory lesson plans were clear and easy to follow. So this is in reference to what Tim had talked about earlier. Thursdays this year, we provided more structure to our advisory time. So every Thursday for a half an hour, we provided lessons to the staff to engage our students around just aspects of life that they need to know about as middle school students, whether it be bullying, whether it be peer pressure, whether it be what screen time does to the brain. So it was just good to see that 94% of staff agreed that it was clear, because if it wasn't that number, then it wouldn't be as successful. And the second bullet, I kind of want to end with the second bullet, but I'll go in order here, because although it isn't the highest percentage that we see, I think that this might be the most important bullet of the night for us. 92% of staff agreed that administration works hard to support them with students' social emotional challenges. And every year we're seeing more and more emotional challenges hit us, and it's like a wave, coming up, and if our teachers aren't resilient enough to meet that wave, they're just going to get knocked down by it. But we are very, very fortunate that our staff, rather than letting the wave knock them over, they grabbed their surfboards and ran down and rode those waters. But I mean, every year we're having more and more challenges that are requiring our teachers to think more non-traditionally to meet our non-traditional students. So I'm very, very proud of them for that. 89% of staff agree that administration cares about them as an individual. So again, that shows that is very closely linked with the second bullet, because I don't think that if they didn't think that we had their backs, that they'd be able to get through all the social emotional problems that we're seeing. 92% of staff report feeling inspired to continually grow as instructors. So through our collaboration station on Tuesdays, through our peer observations, and through our promotion of makerspace and just celebrating good learning and what we see in the building, we're able to continually create a culture of inspiration and reflection. And then 98% of staff report that school administration is visible during the school day. So for middle school, that's half the battle right there. It's just being visible to our 660 students. It shows the students that we are invested in their learning, and it also shows that we're just there. So they never know when they're going to get a dose of Martin and Allen, so that kind of helps them be on their best behavior as much as they can be. So on top of the staff survey, we have also administered surveys for each of the teams of students in the building. So 660 students were given surveys, and we are going to be crunching those numbers and really looking at it this summer, and then going back to the teams so that we can really analyze the data and see what areas the teams need to work on next year to have an even more successful year. And we also did a round of feedback with all students in our advisory program this year. This was our last one that we did in the year, where each advisory was asked to make 4 suggestions for things that they would like to learn about next year. So asking the students, to provide what they want to know and learn more about during those Thursday activities is only going to make it even more engaging for the following year. And this is just some examples of life at Birchland within the last month. So the top left, this is to the annual 8th grade High Meadows field trip. Now this particular picture, I wanted to take a selfie of all of us teachers that were on duty, because a minute before this picture was taken, my phone started blowing up. Because at this time, as I was with the 8th grade teachers and the 8th grade students at High Meadows, Tim was in the picture below, the bottom left. He was bowling with the 6th grade team along with Diana Bannon, our 6th grade teacher. Our 8th grade counselor, she had to take a sick day that particular day, so we were very understaffed in the building that day, and there happened to be a fire drill. So that top left picture, that was me taking a picture and sending it to to our secretaries who were in charge of the fire drill, and it went off without a hitch. But this was us just living up life at the moment. The top right picture, that is Bertram Park Middle School team, moments before they were cheated out of victory as they competed against the high school softball team.
They beat us fair and square.
Yeah.
They beat us.
And then the bottom right-hand picture, that is Mr. Allen and I's advisory, which is a living, breathing breakfast club. They were an incredible group of students, and it really captures what life at Bertram Park is like. Each one has a very, very strong and individual personality, which, in the worst scenarios could lead to conflict, but it's something that they all respect about each other, and something that I just find completely fascinating. So it was an incredible year for both staff and student alike.
So I think if you just watch the news, you can kind of see that a lot of students, especially at the high school level, are really dealing with some life and death situations much more prominently than we've ever seen before. I think I echo what Connor says. This is an area as a school that we're really trying to give our students the most help with, and we were very fortunate this year to receive extra money for social emotional, and we really took that money seriously, and I think we spent it in areas that we got a lot of bang for a buck, so to speak. And one of the things that, as we were trying to figure out, where to kind of move the finance support, our Spartan block. So that was one thing that hits every student, and it's a great way for us to connect with students on a personal level and talk about some of these tough issues that a lot of our students are dealing with. But one of the things that really hit home for myself, and I know RJ and Frank in our guidance department, is we have students at the high school that, for whatever reason, have a difficult time coming to school. And the number this year was 13. We identified 13 kids for whatever reason. It could be medical, it could be mental health, it could just be family issues, but really struggled and put them at risk of not completing their high school year. And so one of the things we did with our social emotional money is we hired a school refusal case manager. And her job was essentially to work directly and as closely as possible with the student and their families to get the student back in. So we had 13 students this year that were identified as school refusal, and you can see from the chart, 5 students were on medical leave, so to speak, for various reasons. There were 5 students that, for whatever reason, mental health or just difficulty fitting in at school, just couldn't bear coming to school. And then we had 3 students that could have gone either way. Some of these students typically we would send out of district for various support services, but we've been really trying to keep a lot of these students in district because we feel that being with your peers and being at home overall is just a better outfit than sending them to a district where they have no connections and they don't know people as well. Not that those programs don't work, because we've had a lot of success, thank you, Dr. Welch, but I don't want to give her a shout out. But whenever possible, we really try hard to keep them in. So our case manager built those relationships by, one of the things she did was, making sure the families had outside support. So put them on to therapists in the area, gave them recommendations of mental health providers, really tried to give parents those resources that they might not have. She also managed regular check-ins with the families, with the students, sometimes made home visits because some of our students just wouldn't leave the house. And so I'm really, really proud that of the 13, 8 were re-engaged into buildings, so they're coming on a regular basis. 3 we did end up transitioning to transitional programs simply because the services they needed we just don't have. And I know that we've talked a lot about the social emotional support, and maybe in the next year or so we can develop something like that. We had one student who was severely injured medically, and I'm so happy she's actually coming back next year, so slowly transitioning. So that medical piece is another aspect that we look at. We have one student that for various reasons we just couldn't get them back this year, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop trying. It just means it was very, very challenging this year. So I wanted you to kind of see where we spent our social and emotional money, and I think we can all agree with the results we just saw here. It's well worth it. If we can keep kids in school and help them to graduate, we're doing something right. The other thing I was kind of, yeah.
Did you find that they span all grade levels, or are you finding that it's
yes,
most
actually they do, yeah. Well, obviously more of the upper grades, but some of those students were,
And that's hard, 'cause they're not that far from
Yeah, there was.
graduating, so if you want to try to.
Yeah. Yeah, Frank just reminded me, there were a couple freshmen. So getting them early is so important. And you know, sometimes we get heat at the high school for being creative in terms of trying to get kids to re-engage. But we don't see kids as, you know, one size fits all. I mean, we really try to get to the individual piece and try to work with the families to kind of find out what that magic formula is. And I'm really proud of Shelby Smith was the person that we hired for that. And she did an amazing job just re-engaging the kids and re-engaging their families. So for me, that's a huge success.
She's actually a counselor in our school during the day.
Yep.
And she's doing this, what the social-emotional money allowed all the schools to do was look at different options and not necessarily that are confined by the school day, which is really great for our students and for staff.
So just to give you an idea of how mental health is particularly facing this age group, late this year, I had 6 girls come to sit with me, and they felt very passionate to talk about mental health and how, you know, basically that it is an epidemic and that, you know, more and more of their friends are engaged in activities of self-harm, idealizations of depression, and they came to me and said, you know, Dr. Flanagan, we need to like come together and really make this at the forefront so that the kids know that there are resources, that the parents know that there are resources, that there's not a stigma to a lot of these situations that our students are involved in. So we met with guidance and we started brainstorming, and just some of the things that I know that we'll be working with the students next year is that we want to be more visible in our high school in terms of where do you go for help. And so they're going to identify, work is all on them. I asked them, you know, you're part of this team, we want you to be involved. They are going to create a brochure of area and local supports for different various mental health issues. We're going to post signs around the building, so you know, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling sad, here's a resource. So just trying to get the word out that, you know, mental health it doesn't mean you're crazy, it doesn't mean that you can't be successful, it just means of finding that support and that help to kind of get you through. So really trying to destigmatize that area as well. And then the other thing we worked really hard on this year, kind of going hand in hand, is the Spartan Town Hall, which I'm very grateful for those of you who took part, because I know for our students it was really important to get their voice out on issues such as mental health, school safety, and gun laws, and then hear for people who make those decisions. So, you know, you had Brian Ash there, Eric Lesser, you all were there, we had town council there, and I think it made the kids feel important, but more importantly, made them feel like, you know, you're listening. So we hope to continue that next year with different topics, so hopefully you'll come back for that as well. And then, of course, we're continuing our work with our diversity committee. We're going to get the full report very shortly and then share those results with our staff to kind of develop next steps. And then our last slide is focusing on, so Mr. Mahafka and I this year went to a professional development called Lead Like a Pirate, and it was all about trying to instill in leaders innovative thinking on how you can do things differently, not just from an academic perspective, but also from the personal relationship piece. And so one of the ideas that we've been working really hard on and that we're going to pilot next year, 2 things. First of all, we're revamping our Spartan block next year, and I'm really excited about this. One of the feedbacks we got this year about our Spartan block, while it had very engaging topics, it was contrived for a lot of the students because it became more of like a curriculum, a set curriculum. And so we got some feedback from students, we got some feedback from staff, and next year, we're really excited. For our Spartan block next year, teachers are going to create a catalog of activities. So you might be really good at building robotics, Mr. Van Buren, or you know, we have a teacher that's really into physical fitness. We have some teachers that are into genealogy, and so teachers will create a catalog of things they're passionate about, and then what the students will do is they will sign up for those activities. So they will have a voice and a choice in which activities that they involved in. So it'll connect students in a much more authentic manner, but it'll also give teachers an opportunity to shine in areas that maybe they'll see them outside of the academic piece. So we're going to pilot that next year with the idea of trying to build more of those authentic, positive personal relationships. The other thing that we're doing next year that's, I think, pretty groundbreaking and different is we're really going to highlight the first 3 days of school. Now, typically during the first 3 days of school, teachers pass out their syllabus, They go over, the curriculum for the year, and it's just not that there's not personal relationship building, but the focus is on the academic. Let's get going, and that's really important. But studies show that kids are more successful when they have a personal relationship, not only with their teacher, but with the kids in their class. So we've asked our staff for next year, for the first 3 days, don't touch your syllabus. Don't give homework. Just spend the first 3 days of school developing those personal relationships through team building. And it's not absent of the content. So you can, believe it or not, build positive relationships in the math class, but just not getting so heavy on the math content. So I think the teachers are really excited about that. And then on the day 3, I'm going to let RJ talk about that, because I think that's going to be a day where we bring the whole school together. And really the whole idea behind this is to develop a community with each other and make the kids feel that the adults in this building really care about their well-being. So, RJ.
Right, so like Dr. Flanagan said, the first 2 days are really going to focus on team building within your own classroom with that specific teacher and with that specific group of peers. And then when we get to day 3, we're going to have the culminating event for the week, where rather than our traditional schedule, we'll start off all together with a guest speaker that our guidance staff is working towards finalizing now, and then we'll break out by grade level and by topic based on some themes that our school has identified across a couple of our latest faculty meetings. So, for example, 9th grade, we're going to focus on some different topics and skills that our 9th graders need to transition into the high school. Our 10th graders are, some of you who have 10th graders, they're kind of feeling their own a little bit, and they're starting to think, in that grown-up type of way, and starting to make some different grown-up type decisions. So we're going to have some breakout sessions about, positive decision-making and healthy relationships, and basically how to work with each other when everybody has their own story, everybody is living their own journey. It's going to be modeled a little bit after that series on MTV, If You Only Knew Me, where you describe basically your own journey, and if we all knew each other's journey, we might be a little kinder, a little more helpful to one another. As you get older through the age levels, 11th grade is going to focus a lot on that post-secondary planning. Recent surveys from students have shown that they're really craving more of that earlier on in their junior year, so they can start spreading out a lot of those responsibilities over a longer period of time, and give themselves a little more time to do some focused research on what they want to do next. And then with our 12th graders, we really want to focus on leaving that legacy, being remembered for something positive as they transition out of here and into whatever's next. Across the 4 grade levels, our PE department's going to be running some different team building exercises that they can hopefully incorporate into their daily lives as well. And the day will culminate that Thursday before Labor Day with a school-wide picnic. Ms. Paul in Food Services has already agreed to help out with that kind of barbecue-style lunch. And then we'll have more of a field day to start the year, going with that theme of, or that idea of everybody's always excited to start the first day. We want them to be excited to start the second day and the third day and every day thereafter. So.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
It really is.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so for goal 3, you heard a lot about the success of utilizing the funds that we were able to free up last year during our budget development for this current year's budget, and that was actually another goal this year. And so we're still looking, hopefully, to add to that fund, to the funding that is supporting a lot of the different initiatives we've taken to support our students in social-emotional learning. We've also expanded our partnerships. We have a new partnership which Dr. Welsh put together this year, and it's brought volunteers from Bay Path University, the graduate school, into all of our schools. We have a new partnership with the Springfield Recovery High School, which we have yet to thoroughly explore, but it's there as a support system if needed. We have an expanded partnership through the youth safety work with Springfield Health and Human Services, and this year we've used grant money from the Springfield Health and Human Services grant for preventative needs assessments that will be given out as surveys for our 8th graders, our 10th graders, and our 12th graders. And what that will do is we'll expand what we're seeing. The middle school talked about their exit surveys. Similar to that, all our schools are doing surveys, but this would give us an opportunity to have our data nationally normed.
Yeah.
And we start to look at that, and with that, we can utilize more grant money to target specific programs for things we're seeing off of those surveys. And then Dr. Flanagan talked about, and we talked about this at the mid-cycle, we started work with a licensed school psychologist and consultant, first and foremost, to start to look at how do we define diversity and inclusion, and it supported and helped the work that high school is already doing with their diversity committee. Now, once we get the results of that report, which will happen next week, we're going to start to expand that and see what does that mean for our entire school system. How do we as a system define diversity and inclusion with staff and students and families in ELPS, which will help us look at goal 3, which we're summarizing the results for this year right now. Next slide.
Well done.
Yes,
Very well done. The only statement that's really stuck with me, and it's something that Dr. Flanagan, you mentioned at the mid-cycle review, when you were wrapping up your part of the presentation, you mentioned you need to figure out why that individual is sitting off by himself at lunch. That hits the nail on the head. We just have to continue to expand it. That has stuck with me right through this. Because that's important to figure that out, and we'll move forward and figure it all out.
Yeah, to that point, I want to acknowledge that you are all focused clearly on the ever-changing ball,
right?
The things that are most appropriate, and it's certainly evident to us, it's evident to parents. The staff is certainly doing what they need to be doing as well, so we acknowledge that they're working hard and following your leadership, so thank you for all that you do for our students, and please thank the staff for all that they do for our students. Clearly another successful year in East Long Meadow Schools, so thank you all for that.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to also just add to that too. School has changed, education has changed so much than all of us sitting in this room have gone through it, and to see everything that goes on besides learning in a classroom. You know, when we talk about the 21st century learning, all the robotics that you're bringing in, all the social and emotional programming that you see coming through the schools, it is a long and busy day.
Yeah.
So to really, I wanted to say that, because I know sometimes it's really hard to get caught up in, I don't want to say the negative, but the way, or the criticism or the issues that people have, you know, and I think overall in the broader scheme of things, you know, everyone works really hard to really meet each student individually, and it's very challenging. So it is just a thank you out there, and this, I think, just demonstrates everything that we are doing. And, you know, we're not there to see all of this all the time, and we don't experience all of this, even if we have kids in all the different programs that are in the schools.
Well, this stuff doesn't show up in the data that you guys give us.
Right.
That's
Right,
why
this is
the
beyond the data.
videos, the pictures are what show us what's actually taking place. We get, you know, the STAR data and the assessments and the DBAs and all that. It's the other stuff that, to Deidre's point, that we don't
I think though, as we strengthen this.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
The other's going to benefit, and I think we have a commissioner now who's leading the state in a direction where we'll be seeing more of this.
Well, to that
And
point.
support, and maybe he can roll back just the window that we give to MCAS,
Well,
which is quite large.
To that point, the
Probably not
MASC
next
Board of Directors met last week, and our featured speaker was the commissioner, and he isn't really changing his message. He wants to just assess everything that's out there and get as much feedback from the boots on the ground, from us, from you, from the teachers, on how to better do it. He's not saying he's not in favor of assessments, but everything's on the table about dialing it back.
Balance, right?
It's balance.
Yeah,
It is
it's
balance.
not too much the other way, right?
And it seems like there will be an open line of communication, which is important, which we haven't seen in the past. So,
Anyone else?
thank you.
Go with that.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you. We had thunder outside, so be
Yeah,
careful.
there's a lot of thunder out there.
Only if you want to.
Yeah, really. We can run through these, it'll take 2 minutes to watch. It's the check.
Do you want to keep everybody?
Well, that's up to you.
Just
Oh,
we
do
can.
you want to do that? Oh, I see.
He's cranky, he's been cranky.
We can
Yeah.
crank these.
You wanna go ahead right now?
Yeah, we'll just go.
I move that we accept the Maple Shade gift donation from Stop and Shop A+ Rewards Program for $503.31.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I move that we accept the Meadowbrook.
Before we move on, do you want to keep
Yeah,
the rest of the
they might.
leadership team?
No, that's them.
It's up to them. It's up to them.
You can stay, Lisa, I don't mean. She's out the door already, never mind.
The feedback in your packets came from the entire team.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We're working on theirs, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's
the whole district.
It's the whole
Oh,
district.
okay.
Yeah,
So, sorry.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Joanne's here.
All right.
Eddie cut my knees in, by the way.
I'm sorry.
But it's just.
You carried me.
It's 5-0.
Yes.
All right.
I move that we accept the Meadowbrook gift donation from Stop and Shop A+ Rewards Program for $821.14.
Okay, motion made
I'll second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. That carries forward 5-0.
Do you want me to keep going, or you want to?
Just go, just go.
Okay.
All right.
I move that, I don't want to be.
No, you're
Took
good.
charge.
I move that we accept the Mountain View gift donation from Stop and Shop A+ Rewards Program for $153.17.
I'll
Okay,
second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just want to acknowledge the Stop and Shop gifts, the gifts, thank you very much. Yep.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
I move that we accept the Maple Shade gift donation from the Ticket Sales Elementary Music Night for $668.
Okay, motion made
I'll second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
I move that we accept the Mountain View gift donation from the Ticket Sales Elementary Music Nights for $667.
Okay, motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
And this,
Blair. I remind him of somebody from his past.
Oh, God.
Well, I didn't mean it that way, but just somebody else.
you'll coordinate that they're doing the same thing as the high school in Birchland Park. as
That's
far as the
correct,
money's
yes, so
going
I'll check on that
to. There's
for
two
you.
different procedures,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, you still got,
You got one
I
more
think
to
there's
go.
I can do it, do we need any background? No? On the
which
revolving?
one?
Revolving
Did
account?
you do the 667?
Yeah, we've already,
No, I did.
You did.
yeah, we did.
Oh, okay,
Did
I
we get all
didn't realize
three?
you did.
no, I thought you just did Meadowbrook.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
We're
I
at
did Mountain View.
5.2.7.
Did you do Maple Shade?
I did.
We did
did
all.
all
I
of
remember
them.
now.
Okay.
We didn't do
Wow.
Mountain. You didn't
The
say
last
thank
one,
you.
Thank you,
right?
Kathy.
That's what I'm,
I just told him to
I'm in
say.
charge too.
No, I did Mountain View. Which one did I not do?
I think
Baby
it's the
Meadowbrook.
last
The
one.
last
Crossed
one,
over.
you did Maple Shakes.
You did Meadowbrook.
I did not do Mountain View, you're saying?
did not.
Okay,
Correct.
my bad, see, I'm
See?
so
I thought
sorry.
we did.
I moved that we
No.
accept the, we did, because I did the $667.
That's
I
all
don't
right,
think I
we'll do
did
it again.
Meadowbrook.
I'll second it.
Hold on.
No, we
Wait a
don't.
minute.
You're saying I didn't do Mountain View. You have the notes, we're moving forward. Thank you, Kathy, I trust you,
Yeah.
I do. I move that we accept the Mountain View gift donation from the ticket sales for elementary music night for $667.
I'll second.
That's all right. It's been seconded by Beth. Any further discussion on that?
Where's the big gap
$1.
between the $1 gap there?
They took the money and
Let's just slow things down.
No, come on. All right.
We got the
Hold on.
revolving
No,
account.
we're not, I didn't go
No,
on.
there's just one more.
All right.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0. Let me check.
I know, we're
Okay,
getting
I will-
jumpy
Don't
here,
worry,
dear.
I will
Come
get
on,
you there.
what are you gonna
We'll
do?
get there. Okay, so now we have 5.2.7, the creation of revolving funds for family and consumer science classes.
So currently, there are, the culinary arts class and the Little Big Kids Nurseries program are both through the student activity account. And when we recently were going through and looking at those accounts, recently Sarah Menard, the town accountant, and myself, we really both feel that these two should be created, a revolving account created. Those monies, both of those programs bring in money, the culinary arts sell food, so it's per Mass General Law that they need to be set up. So the only, I just need the school committee to approve it, it does not need town council vote or anything.
Is this two
Two
funds?
separate.
One
Two separate,
for,
One for culinary arts and one for the Little Big Kids Nursery School, the
Okay.
preschool. Two separate revolving
So,
accounts.
so this will become a line item?
That's
When you look
correct.
at the budget
Yes.
each year, it'll be broken down into that, we see.
You'll see these two go into the, on the bottom section under the grants, I always have the revolving accounts.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
move that we create the revolving fund for family and consumer science classes.
So two
Is that
separate.
enough? Or do you want two
Culinary arts
separate
and Little
motions?
Big
It's
Kids.
two separate.
Culinary arts.
They're both within
Oh, I'm
family
sorry.
consumer
Yeah.
science, but they're
So,
two
what would
separate.
you like it to be called then?
Culinary arts is one, and the
Okay.
Little Big Kids Nursery is the
Scratch,
other.
thank you. I move that we create a revolving fund for culinary arts.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
Move that we create a revolving fund for Little Big Kids Nursery Program.
Perfect. Motion made
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
Great, so I'll get that set up, so on July 1st, the new fiscal year, it'll be in the revolving.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Do we have to transfer into that? Are there funds to transfer?
Yeah, that's
Finance
exactly what I'll have to
subcommittee?
do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, we are moving down to old business. We have 6.1, leadership team feedback on the East Long Meadow Public School dress code.
Okay, so in your, you have a memo from me to all of you. And what I tried to do here is capture the feedback which you had asked for back in our meeting on June 4th from the, no, actually you asked for it on one of our May meetings. It took us a little bit to have that meeting. But to capture the feedback in what was a pretty lively discussion, both at the school committee level and at the leadership team level. And more or less, just to walk you through the memo, you have to remember that the ELPS Code of Conduct is just that. It's a code of conduct for pre-K all the way through 12. And although there are areas where we may designate that this is a procedure and policy governing these grade levels, specifically you see that around attendance. For the most part, the policies and procedures govern pre-K through 12. So what we were trying to do is take the high school proposal and what currently is in the Code of Conduct and provide something that did have support from the entire leadership team. So as you go through the memo, that first paragraph actually is our introduction to the dress code in the Code of Conduct as it stands now, moderation in all things. And then it goes on to talk about making sure that personal dress and appearance do not violate reasonable standards of health, safety, cleanliness, and propriety. Then the leadership team agreed with the three goals that were presented back in May. That our dress code should promote a respectful learning environment, a safe learning environment where dress does not interfere with successful and safe completion of learning activities. And then the third goal, promoted equitable, inclusive learning environment in which the dress code does not negatively impact any group based on race, sex, gender, identity, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic status, or body type or size. And then this would be adding a sentence. I think it's a combination of both the proposal, high school proposal, and possibly what was there. The responsibility of proper dress and grooming rests primarily with the student and his, her, / their parents or guardians. We ask that students and parents work to ensure that the goals outlined above are being met with students' school dress attire. Then going through the bullets, you can see in the bold type where we've added something to what the high school originally proposed. I don't know if you want me to walk through each one of those.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So allowable dress and grooming, students must wear clothing including both a shirt with pants, shorts, skirt, or the equivalent, and shoes. That was something that was already there, I think, in both dress codes. Clothing must have fabric in the front, back, sides with no space between the top and bottom. All right, that was something that was added, the no space between the top and the bottom. Clothing must cover undergarments and private parts. Fabric covering all private parts must not be see-through. And then this was something that we had in our current code of conduct and we felt we needed to keep this. Hats or headwear may serve a reasonable purpose under specific circumstances or be a sincere expression of recognized religious belief. Under these specific and unique circumstances, hats or headwear may be worn in all buildings. This would include declared school spirit days and theme days, and those generally are something that come through either the student government with the administration working with the student government, or in the high school's case, it might be a class-driven activity, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, or it could be a spirit week. And then, as we were looking at that, we, as a leadership team, felt that we had support both for what the high school is trying to do, as well as what exists in our pre-K through 8 buildings. So, other than those circumstances we outlined, we'd say hats and other headwear may only, in pre-K through 8, may only be worn under the specific and unique circumstances described above. And then we expanded this, and it was a pretty good discussion around this, both at the school committee level and at the leadership team level. In grades 9 through 12, it is understood that as students grow and mature, they must also grow in independence and responsibility. To support students in this growing independence and responsibility, students in grades 9 through 12 will engage in discussions during the advisory period, Spartan block, and within the guidance curriculum regarding the fact that appropriate dress may be different in many settings. The parenthetical examples can change, but the ones we have right now are job interview, place of employment, sporting event, etc. Students will be allowed to wear hats in open spaces as long as their face is clearly visible and headwear does not interfere with the line of sight to any student or staff member. Hats worn in the classroom will be at the discretion of the classroom teacher. This is something that's new. The administration, however, reserves the right to restrict any hat or headwear or article of clothing that is a potential safety hazard, disruptive, disrespectful, or interferes with the general operation of school. And then the final bullet in that area is clothing must be suitable for all scheduled classroom activities, including physical education, science labs, and other activities where unique hazards and situations exist. And then we did keep the bullets that provided examples for non-allowable dress and grooming. And those are: clothing may not depict, advertise, or advocate the use of alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, or other controlled substances. Clothing may not depict pornography, nudity, or sexual acts. Clothing may not use or depict hate speech targeting groups based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, identity, religion, socioeconomic status, or body type or size. Offensive clothing can sometimes be subjective to the individual. However, students should be aware that if symbols, words, or pictures on clothing cause a substantial disruption of school, they will be asked to remove and replace the offensive clothing. Offenders may be subject to other disciplinary action as well. To this end, we ask that students, parents, and guardians be considerate of how dress choices affect the safety and comfort of others. So what we tried to do there was provide the feedback that you asked for, but also look to how you transition utilizing the curriculum that our students engage in.
So, I know we've had plenty of discussion on this. We've spent a lot of time debating it amongst ourselves, so I don't want to waste a lot of time this evening on it also. I know personally for me, I can't speak for everyone else here, you know, I will say this has been one of the most hotly debated topics I've seen on school committee. You know, being on school committee, like people talking to me or seeing it on other social media. And I will have to say, the hats worn in the classroom is still a tough pill for me to swallow. And for me personally right now, you know, with it being at the discretion of the classroom teacher, is also tough because there's just inconsistency for students in the school, and I have a hard time with that. So that's kind of my spiel about it right now. I don't know if anyone on the committee also would like to have any thoughts on it.
You know, I've got my thoughts.
We're only talking, you know,
yeah,
not
about,
everything.
I know that, but I guess I feel that it is hotly contested, and usually when you guys come to us with something, and it's on the academic level.
Right.
Okay, I feel you're specialized in this, and this is what you do. And I tend to try not to question it. I mean, I do, because it's my nature, but I respect what you come and you bring to us, and I get it. But hands down, all levels of people who are friends, people who are not friends, not fans of hats, I have a really hard time putting the decision of whether or not a hat is allowed in a classroom on a teacher. It's not fair to do the teacher. And for those teachers that do allow them in the classroom, how are you engaging with a student when it's hard to see past the brim of a hat? and I'm not, and I understand it's hard to pick one hat over the other, a cute hat like a beret or something like that's not gonna hide their face, but you wonder, I wanna be respectful to students though, and I feel that if it's written in an IEP or there's a special circumstance, like we were saying, beyond religious, I feel that we need to be respectful of that, because some kids have to do certain things to get through the day, and I get that. And the only other thing I would add is, what is our definition of a private part? Like, no, but I'm not trying, I'm saying like, everybody's, Webster's is, so, I guess like where, like, I know y'all don't want me to say
But
the word,
any kind of a policy like this is gonna be open to interpretation.
Well, I know
There's
that,
no way
but,
around it. There's no way around it.
That's my only thing. I don't like when I look at this, if I could highlight everything I like, I highlight 98% of it. Okay, I really do. I don't want you to think I don't. But I feel that who's gonna take advantage of that? And then when we have a situation where somebody's maybe, pushing it, how do we fix that? How do we turn around and say, okay, we need to get control of this situation? And that's just my feeling.
And I think that's something that you just kind of put it out there, and then if you have a problem with something, then you create the definition around it. I don't think you can sit here and really keep trying to specifically define it if there's no issue right now with that.
So I'll go back to what I keep saying, that it's a policy, it's gonna be open to individual interpretation. You're not gonna capture everything. I understand your concern, I get it.
I guess I just feel that buttocks should be covered. I'm not even asking for a lot here. I'm just saying that I feel, to me, that's a private part. But is it a private part to you or to the person down the
That's the
street?
problem.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So if
But there
I
is some
could
responsibility
interject
on the parents.
just for a moment.
That's all. I said the word.
Thank you for saying that. So certainly, this is the school committee's policy ultimately, because you have to endorse it to the code of conduct. So if you're making changes, we will implement those changes. One thing I would add, though, just in response, is that the language here allows the administrators to have discretion, so they will be able to define private parts without us explicitly defining private parts.
So that's next
And
time.
I have confidence in this group that they will be able to make those decisions.
No, I know that.
But part of the issue, I think, is, well, first of all, question, when do we review the dress code with students, other than giving them the code of conduct that they don't read?
First day of school
And so would you go through bullets like this in terms of, this is what you should wear and no spacing, okay, that's good, because they should all understand that, and then if it's brought up at a later time, they really shouldn't feel so bad because they were made aware. So it was brought to my attention that, kids are very uncomfortable, and it's probably uncomfortable to bring up the subject, that they're not dressed appropriate for school, it makes them uncomfortable. But if we address it with them ahead of time, then that's appropriate. As has been stated, overwhelming, this is one of the biggest issues since the last meeting. I walk in any place, athletic events, go pick up my car, it comes up. And,
Which is crazy, because it's got nothing
which
to
is
do with
crazy,
it.
it is crazy, but whatever, it's
I know.
important to
But
people,
it's-
so it's
But we
worthwhile.
make that decision,
So,
right?
the point again is, I don't change on the hats.
Right.
I appreciate the attempt on the hats, but I think this is it's more money than it was before, and it's probably harder to enforce now than it is currently. So I would suggest that we just go back to the no hats on it.
With
Minus
the
religious purposes.
religious or special.
The unique
Special
circumstances.
that no hats in our building make adults too.
Yes.
So when a parent walks in, which happened
Well,
last week.
we have no control over parents,
Right,
no.
no, but I mean, I just
You
wanna be
can't tell a
clear.
parent to take off their hat,
Okay.
yes. Students, we have authority over, they must abide by the policy. And teachers need to abide, staff needs to abide by the policy. And so if we make it clear, hats are not allowed, then there shouldn't be anybody wearing a hat in the building, minus other exceptions. And so I think I'm at that point. The rest of it is great. I really appreciate the attempt to modernize the policy, to not separate, boys versus girls. It's great, and as long as they're all made aware at the beginning of the year, then they really shouldn't be that upset if it's brought to their attention. The other alternative is uniforms, right? If we have to get to that point, that it gets that far, then we get to that discussion. And I don't think any of us are really ready for that. But we could get there at some point, because there are other districts close by that have gone there, and probably with some success, because it's no longer an issue. So if it becomes an issue, that's our next conversation, so.
I have another question, and there's nothing with straps, like I don't have a problem with a skinny strap or, you know, if something's off the shoulder, but it doesn't, was it never addressed in the code of conduct? Is it a school
was.
district?
I just think that it's the
Yeah, no, it was.
fabric.
Okay, so it's just out and that's,
This would be a
okay.
recommendation to move away from,
Okay, no, that's fine, because I know that's, you know,
it provides more discretion.
right,
It doesn't
right. No, I know, I
necessarily,
thought it was there and
discriminate
it's
against
not,
body
so.
type and so forth.
Yep, nope, that's good.
And on that, what you had also noted too about the students being aware of it, and the parents also need to be aware of the dress code policy too. They may get their code of conduct book and not read it too, and then they can get mad if you call at one point in the day to
Well,
say,
But I think part of our job is to work with parents.
Right, that's
And so
what I'm saying.
if we can somehow explicitly outline that this is an issue in these bullets, specifically these bullets. If I get these bullets as a parent, I can follow these bullets, I can send my kid off to school knowing that they're following the dress code. And so.
or if you get a phone call, you'll understand why.
Right.
Can I speak to that though? Like, I agree with you, Greg, that like, it seems like if you outline it and it's in
I know.
writing and
Right.
you, but the same passion that is causing you guys to run into this everywhere you turn is what leads to 3 out of 4 dress code, anything, go poorly. Like
I
3
agree.
out of 4.
Right.
And it doesn't matter that like, yeah, I get on the stage the 4th day of school and I demonstrate fingertip tests and I demonstrate bad fingertip tests and we do everything. But it doesn't matter because as soon as we call
reason
people
why we
on
took
it, the
that out.
same values that are causing you to get all this, causes us to get all this.
Right.
And one, like, that shirt's not dress code, like, leads to 4 emails and,
But how do we address that without just giving in?
yeah, and I'm
and
not
giving
saying I
up.
even have an answer, it's
Yeah.
just like,
I don't think you can.
we've been being upfront about what's expected
Yep.
and with the new policy, we will again, but it's such a heated topic.
Well, do you wanna talk about uniforms? I mean, is that where we need to go?
No,
If
no.
people are not addressing appropriately for school, is that our next conversation?
My recommendation would be no. You know, I think too that for the high school student, the dress that they wear is an important part of their identity. And we are trying to create young adults to go out in the world and do the responsible thing. So having that dialogue, I think is important. And I don't want to give you the impression that we don't have those. We talk, I talk to girls all the time.
Right.
But again, going back to our goals, I really felt it was important to make our dress code more equitable in terms of the gender piece. And obviously trying to make it something that respects each other. So the whole, you know, cultural piece of it, I think is important. I'm really proud that you were saying to us that you support that, because that means a lot to us. The hats thing, you know, that's your prerogative, and we will respect and enforce anything you put forth. It was just something that, you know, we see on the daily level that, for us, I think it was just not, it doesn't affect teaching and learning. And, you know, there was a case years ago, a teacher in Springfield who was actually killed because he told a student to take off a hat. Not that that would happen in East Long Meadow, but that issue with young people, it really gets them fired up. And, you know, we want to have positive relationships and conversations with them, but we will follow whatever you guys put forward.
But I think consistency to that point, if they're not allowed to wear hats all the way through, from kindergarten through 12th grade, they can't expect that it's gonna change unless it changes, so.
Yeah, right. And there are spirit days, and I get that there might be, you know, other occasions for it to happen, but my biggest problem is putting it on to the teachers and making the teachers, they've got enough to do in their classrooms. They're responsible for teaching these students, and when you've got the one that doesn't mind and the one that does, and the kids are rolling their eyes as they're sitting down and taking their hats off and throwing them in their backpacks, I just don't think it's fair to that teacher. And I guess that's my.
We make that very clear to our staff next year, that there cannot be any wiggle room with that.
I think the hardest part is that it's rare that the school committee usually embraces what the leadership team says to us. And I think this is the first time we're kind of stepping a little bit to the side, like 2% to the side. But I'm gonna go back to something you said, Ms. Mayu, a couple meetings ago, that we are elected to represent the community.
Right.
And the parents and the constituents, and so the onus is on us to do what we feel is best for the community, not just one building. So I think, as difficult as this is, I've never in my whole life gone against a leadership team. I think we have to look at hats in K through 12, no hats.
I agree with that, because this is, you know, it is a hotbed topic. I mean, it's not, you could say however you want, does it affect education or doesn't it? That's, again, open to interpretation. We could beat this to death for the next year and not come up with a consensus where the 5 of us would agree on some sort of a a standard policy here.
But I think there's been some really good changes.
Well, there have
I
been.
mean, I
Definitely,
have that
it's
struggle every
positive.
day with my own kids. I
Right,
do.
it's
And
positive.
and I think that there's some positive changes in here.
As someone who had the old dress code and seeing this new one, it really is a tremendous, effective improvement.
Right.
There is, I mean, it's wonderful the way it's been done.
And again, we're dealing with something that is across the country, a problem in high schools. The minute the weather turns warm, in grades all across, in schools all across the country.
Especially when you don't have air conditioning.
And that's it, right, the temperature control, the minute that.
And not just high school.
Right, yes, you're right.
Well, summer started this morning, so.
Yeah.
So, do we have a policy, this isn't the whole thing?
Now, the policy still more or less captures what that first part of,
Yeah.
first introductory paragraph says.
So these are actually changes
So
to the
this
handbook.
is a code of conduct outlining
Right.
a little bit more clearly what the overarching policy in the policy manual says.
So would this be the wording in the code of conduct? Is this
Yes,
the
yes.
proposed?
Whatever we do.
So
amend-
start to finish, this is the proposed wording?
Whatever gets approved.
Yeah, whatever is approved here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need
So-
to change.
We need
few
to
bullets.
change.
Correct.
Right.
Well, why don't we
So-
remove?
Give it a go.
We should,
Just change it,
The second
the
bullet,
grades BK through 12, on the second page.
Yeah.
yeah, and then the bullet below, remove. Is there
Well-
anything we need to keep on that? We need to keep something, right?
I think you
We'll just
probably want to
still
keep
let them
that
discuss
they
it.
still have the,
Reserve the right to restrict.
reserve the right to restrict. Yeah. The administration, however, reserves the right, that part, I would keep that.
Yeah.
I would almost be, I don't want to see the conversation stop, so
Right,
I would
keep that
almost keep that bold.
Except
where-
that says students will be allowed to wear hats.
Right, but I would keep the first part where it's going to be talked about, in an advisory period, guidance curriculum. Let's not let the conversation go away.
Well, that's
Because I
almost the
think-
second bullet. It's like that has to be a bullet, and then underneath where it starts talking about
Yeah, well, that's
hats,
fine, but
it's
I
like two
think,
different things.
because I think once they move on, they need to, students need to understand what professionalism is. And maybe that could start the conversation, I don't know.
yeah, you could leave the first part, but take it out where it says students will be allowed to wear hats.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what
no,
I'm
but it
saying.
says hats in open spaces. I mean, they're walking up to the school.
No,
Well,
that's
no,
inside.
that means
Oh,
it's
open
inside.
space, okay.
No, not allowed.
Yeah.
Got it.
So remove the rest, starting from students will be allowed to wear hats. Remove
Correct.
that all the way down.
Yes,
And then add to not allowable dress and grooming. Hats. On the bottom. Here.
not allowable.
Not allowed.
Oh,
The
that-
last,
okay.
the last section.
All right.
Minus the circumstances listed above.
You want that as the first bullet?
It should be.
Doesn't matter.
Well, it should be.
Okay.
If we spent this much time talking about it, it should be.
What was that you're adding? Right above that one?
Non-allowable dress and grooming, hats and headwear will not be allowed in any building pre-K through 12.
Right. You had some wording, except for the,
Well, there's wording in there that allows it.
Only be worn under.
well, so we could take that out. So that one, the consensus tab, the in grade pre-K
one's
through
working.
8,
Yeah.
move that down.
Right.
Hats are not allowed and may be worn under specific and unique circumstances
So
described
just
above.
move that down. Where
Yes.
do you want that under?
To the not allowable part.
Allowable?
Yep.
Okay,
So remove that whole bullet from up there too.
okay.
That make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Is that workable?
That does.
Okay. This is nothing personal. We
Right.
always
Yeah.
appreciate
We
your
respect
input. You're-
that, your opinions on it. We see things on a daily level, so we're
Right.
coming in from the view of our students and
Right.
staff.
Right.
But we get that you're representing the community. It was never, to us, it was never meant to be
Right.
adversarial. It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
that, we felt that it's not a big deal, but if it's a big deal for our community, then
That's exactly
It-
it. We didn't know it would be.
It gained a life of its own.
It did,
It-
but it's great to have that
It
conversation.
is, and there's nothing
apparently
wrong
law
with
said it's okay, so I don't get that.
it. Yeah, I know. Well,
Their school committee is not as good.
No.
But it shouldn't be lost how great the other changes are, like.
Yes.
I know,
That's a
I like the
huge-
Yes.
fingertip, the
It is.
fingertip
Oh my gosh.
language.
And
is
you need
very-
to know,
that.
you know best what you need to have to
Right.
work
The,
with.
the
And so-
strap width has always been,
I mean, you guys could have came to us and said, we want uniforms,
Yeah.
and that would have been
you have
That would've started a
during
whole other
conversation
debate.
sundress and they
That's
can't
a-
wear it because it doesn't fit.
No,
I'm not recommending it, by the way.
No, I'm not.
just-
Neither am I.
For
I'm saying.
conversational purposes only, really.
Right.
No.
So
that-
we need,
Although it's a lot less clothing to buy for
Yeah.
your children, right? I mean.
I
Mine
know,
wearing
it's double.
uniforms, that part of it's great.
See?
But they modify those too. They modify
Well, we
uniforms to
need-
make it as they get older.
Greg,
We'll
you wanna
need a
take
motion.
yeah, you wanna take a stab at it?
What did, Gordon, what do you
or,
got?
Read
Want
it.
to
Did
do
you
it
mark
as-
off the ones we were gonna take out?
Yeah.
Can I see your notes?
You can just say as amended.
As amended,
Or as
you don't have to go
discussed. Or as
through, it's just
discussed.
as
It
amended.
says amended, but
I'll do
it's
it.
just highlighting that had to be on
Just
the board or
Okay.
something. You wanna do
And then we
it
give that to Kathy?
Mm-hmm.
As discussed.
Yeah.
As amended.
As discussed, we haven't amended it yet. The amendment is the discussion.
Well, yeah.
You're gonna amend, you're gonna approve the amended
We're gonna
code
approve
of
the,
conduct
as discussed.
as discussed.
Dress code,
Dress code.
dress code proposal for the code of conduct, yeah.
To not allow hats, but keep everything else, as discussed.
As discussed.
All right, so someone's
There's
gonna
the
make a motion on that?
I move that we
There's the motion.
approve, amend the proposed dress code to not allow hats and use the wording discussed today
For the code of conduct.
for the code of conduct for dress code. Did I say that twice? Dress code.
No, you're over,
She'll
so.
get it.
I'll
Thank
second
All right,
it.
so motion's been made and second. Any further discussion on that?
I just do appreciate you changing
Absolutely.
No, we
what you
appreciate
have
it.
changed in this because it's better.
It is better. Okay,
So
so all,
Crazy.
I think discussion even in our building has been fruitful, so,
Yeah.
Sure it has.
it'll help us with,
Yeah.
reinforcing it as
Yeah.
well.
exactly. All right, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank
Great,
Thanks for
thank you
sticking
so
around,
much, I
Nancy.
appreciate it. Check that one off. All right, so
3 minutes for the rest.
moving down onto old business, we have a lot of second readings of some policies.
I make a motion to approve the CB school superintendent on the second reading.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay, and that carries forward 5-0.
Move to approve CBD superintendent contract second reading as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, all those in any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0. And I just want to make a note, even though we're going through these quickly, these just happen to have just one or two words
Yeah.
or a
Right, yeah.
sentence.
Well, there were no
that-
edits.
Yeah, no edits.
No edits came back, so we're good.
So, all right, so we have 6.3?
No,
6.4, so now you know.
Move to approve CBI evaluation of superintendent second reading.
Okay,
I'll
motion made
second.
and seconded, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0. We're at 6.5.
Make a motion to approve CE, administrative councils, cabinets, and committees on the second reading.
Okay, motion made
I'll second.
and seconded, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
Move to approve policy CH policy implementation second reading.
Okay, motion made
I'll second.
and seconded, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, nay. Okay, that carries forward 5-0. 6.7.
I made a motion to approve CHA, development of procedures, one of my favorites.
Okay,
Second.
motion made and seconded, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
And the one that goes with it, I'll
Carries forward
approve
5-0.
CHC policy, procedure dissemination second reading. Thunder.
Yep, all right, motion made
I'll second.
and seconded, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0.
See, it's gonna be electric because it's a superintendent's
I
evaluation.
know.
Yeah,
Keep waiting for the lights to go out or
they
something.
flickered earlier.
I know. All right, so a couple of weeks ago, we had to do our end of year, our summative review of Mr. Smith, and thank you everyone for bringing everything back to me in a timely manner. I just want to give a little bit of an overview on it. I mean, we only had done your mid-cycle just a few months ago.
February, yeah.
Yep. And again, we have to look at 4 different standards: instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. And I'm just going to quickly say something about each of that as a committee, we do give individual ratings on each standard. The overall performance rating is proficient, and the plan moving forward is a self-directed growth plan. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to I made some notes in here that the evaluation presented by Mr. Smith is detailed and very thorough in describing the work and responsibilities involved with overseeing our district. And while he does provide us with evidence as to the work he does, we as a committee also speak with him individually and observe him on a regular basis. And also we receive feedback from our community members as well. So when we do our evaluations, we take all of that into consideration. On our instructional leadership, the overall rating was exemplary on this. We say that you've done wonderful work with your leadership team, with other districts, your MIAA, and other educators.
And that's actually a group effort. It's the group you had in here tonight that makes that exemplary.
And at the beginning of the year, you had the SMART goals are set, you demonstrate the action steps, and there is completion in a timely manner, and thus moving our district forward. On to management and operations, an overall rating of proficient. Just want to commend you for the ongoing work, specifically the support of the MSBA project at Meadowbrook, the continuation of the statement of interest for the high school. We've seen successful completion of our food services contract, the Unit A, and at the town's request, the transfer of the transportation services to the LPVC. And also I wanted to point out your continued proactive approach to the safety and security of our students. We've seen a couple of things this year, and you've been very responsive, and just, it's been fantastic. I also do want to also mention the project Lead the Way in that also, so thank you on that. Standard 3 is our family and community engagement. Again, we see proficient, that you have many ways that you connect with our families. You attend many school-related events. I like that you're active on Twitter. And, well, I mean, social media is another way that we have to connect with some of our different parents.
Right.
Yes.
We also utilize and Connect Ed to inform our family of anything that may be going on. And that you continue to hold strong relationships that you've established with our town departments while building new relationships. And one that was highlighted in one of the reviews was such as with the Springfield Recovery High School. That allows us to see what's out there to help students.
And it's actually something that is right next door and we didn't know a lot about.
And again, it's just one of those mental health things that
Right.
the high school wants to work
Right.
on. That's going to be a great addition for them. And on the last standard that we look at is professional culture. And again, we have an overall rating of proficient. Mr. Smith allows his leadership team to take what he called intellectual risks. One, for example, is professional development, which included staff members leading workshops for other staff members. And I know that sounds simple, but I know sometimes it is hard for other teachers to want to present in front of their peers. But I heard it was very successful. You've given us a lot of feedback on that. So it allows for continuous learning for all staff. So at the end, we just want to thank you for your continued dedication to our students, schools, and community. And we just hope to see more of it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank all of you for the support and the work that you do. There's no way we can accomplish what we do without all of you. So.
Great team.
It's a good team.
Great team. Agreed.
Make a motion to accept the superintendent's evaluation for the 2017-2018 school year.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion?
We give you more exemplaries, but we want you to keep working hard.
Yeah. Because there's nowhere to go after exemplary, that's the problem.
All right, so made a motion, it's been seconded. Any further discussion? You've said it. Anything else? No? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0. Just have a couple of things under new business that we need to move on to. We have 7.1.
I can move that we approve the waiver for the 12-1 retirement notice for final year compensation as discussed in executive session.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries forward 5-0. Okay, you have 7.2, the school committee reorganization date.
Do we have a date in mind?
So I think you guys
Well,
have made
here's the
a
problem.
date.
Here's the problem.
Okay.
When you guys voted, I was in Washington.
True.
Because I went back and I looked through the minutes and everything else, and I just requested that it be put back on. I'm gonna be on vacation Tuesday, July 9th.
What about the first week? Why don't we do it that way?
I'm
on vacation.
You're on vacation.
And I
We need
leave,
to, we can't not
Yeah.
have a,
No, I know.
and I leave on the 10th and I don't come back till the 20th.
when are you gone? The whole week? 1 through 7?
Well, I'm not leaving till 10 o'clock that morning.
What, Monday?
The Monday the 10th.
Monday the 1st?
We do
Yeah,
need
but
Sarah.
Bill's
Oh,
out.
Sarah.
No,
Oh, you're
when?
not?
July 1st. I'm leaving July 7th.
Sarah,
Yes.
July 1st? Are you available 8 AM?
Yes, July 1st is a Sunday, yes.
It's a Monday.
Monday.
No.
I'm sorry, July 2nd.
July
It's the
2nd.
Monday, not Sunday, yep.
July 2nd,
Yep.
8
8
o'clock.
AM. Sure.
Does that
10
work for
minutes.
you?
Yep.
All right, 8
Okay,
a.m.
8 o'clock.
8 a.m.?
I need an
Yes.
alarm on that one, people.
Welcome to the life of scheduling now.
So let's do that.
So you had voted on the last one, you may want to put a motion and vote on the new date?
Move that we set a meeting for reorganization on July 2nd at 8 AM.
I'll
Here in
second.
the conference room.
I'll
Okay,
second
motion
it.
made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Do I have to vote on that? I don't.
You're,
No, you
yeah,
don't.
you
I
do.
do, I do
You
vote?
probably-
Okay.
Yeah, you do have to vote
Okay.
on it.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Oh, maybe I should have said, all right, that carries forward 5-0.
Okay.
All right, and we just have one more thing on here under new business, it is 7.3.
Yes, I move that we change or no, is this for the posting, Gordon?
No, this would be
No,
for the
this is-
chief,
For
the
the
change,
change
the
of
posting would
position.
fall under.
That's right, you said that, thank you.
Yeah.
I move that we change the position of Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction to Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment.
Okay, motion's made
I'll second.
and seconded, any further discussion? Okay, hearing
Does
none.
that work, Gordon?
Does-
Yeah.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 5-0.
I do want to just say, because it may
I
sound to
was-
the public,
I know, I
as
was
though-
hoping someone-
no,
I was
um,
I know, I was
Yeah.
thinking that too, but I was
You're
like,
being
in no way is this a reflection. Mrs. Anir,
yes.
Exactly how
You were just gonna let you know.
Yeah, surprise.
Mrs. Anir has accepted a new job as the Director of, Chief Instructional Officer, thank you, in the Holyoke
It's a
Public
nice
Schools.
title.
And so we wish her all the best, and we are incredibly grateful for the great work she's done with us for 8 years.
Yes.
Yes,
So we
very
Yes, thank you
professional.
very
Support
much.
her in any
Great
way going
presentation.
forward, and I'm sure that I will be on the phone picking her brain as we
I'm sure.
Yeah.
move through the summer.
The
We
red
wish you
wine.
the best of luck, they're very
Yeah.
lucky to have you.
They are very
They are
lucky to
very
have you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I've loved my time here. Yeah, it's not an easy transition.
It's not easy. I'm in that same boat, you don't want to talk about it.
I'm
Just
finding it
don't.
hard
I
too.
really don't.
Right, that's it for the Exodus, you know. no
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, exactly. So-
What we're gonna do is develop a policy. If anybody's leaving at year's notice, you can talk you out of it. How's that?
Right, that'll go over well.
All right, so with that, we just want to say thank you to John Mackey this evening
Yes.
for putting up with us.
We do have one
One more.
Yes, we
recognition
do have one
Okay.
more.
Not too much.
our chair, who's given us an incredible
Yeah, you gotta
7
stand up.
years. And so we want to thank you for all your contributions to the East Long Meadow Public Schools, and thank you for putting up with us.
Oh,
Thanks.
I really appreciate it. Oh, but it's a little thing that says you make a difference.
Mostly putting up with me.
Oh, no.
I'm sure
it's-
everybody else was fine.
No, and I'll say it again, that really it has been my honor and my pleasure to serve everyone here and our community. It was the best thing. I always encourage anyone to give of themselves to the community because you get to meet so many people, you learn so many new things, and you have a great appreciation for everything going on. It really is such a fantastic opportunity, and I really, again, encourage anyone to try it and just go for it. So again, I want to thank everybody here. It's been an amazing 6 years on the board. I'll miss everybody here, and I know I'll be back to come and visit. I'm going to come sit in the meetings and take notes.
You've made a difference, I
don't do
guess.
that.
I hope so.
Thank
I
you
hope
for
so.
all
I really, my goal was
Yeah.
to make a difference
Yep.
and be
And
involved
you
when I
have.
moved here.
I'll testify to that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, and seconded? Second. Any further discussion? Thank you, everyone. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you, that carries forward 5-0.